Welcome back to Success with Steven. My name is Steven Smith. On this channel, we discuss all things financial literacy. And today we're going to discuss how you can save $10,000 very, very fast in 2025. Recently, I read an article on Google about the cost of living in America, and this was by Go Banking Rates. They actually surveyed more than 1,000 adults from across the country to find out how much money the average American had in their savings and their checking accounts, and the results were crazy to say the least. More than 40% of Americans would admit that they keep a minimum balance of $500 or less in their checking accounts. With that being said, there's no better time to start saving than right now. So in this video, I'm going to give you a step-by-step guide on how to save $10,000 very quickly. And while this may sound impossible right now, you can make 6 to 7 changes in your life that can really help you accomplish this. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. $10,000 in a savings plan, to me, I would say it's not so large that it seems unobtainable, but it's also not so small that it doesn't meet a reasonable financial goal. So whether you're trying to save $1,000 or $10,000, you've got to take it $1 at a time. And you do this by breaking it down into smaller amounts. Instead of thinking about saving $10,000 in a year, let's try focusing on saving $27.40 per day, what's also known as the 27-40 rule, because $27.40 multiplied by 365 equals $10,001. However, there are so many ways that you could break down this $10,000, and I gave a couple of different options here. So you may have already heard of the 27-40 rule, or the $192.31 rule, or even the $384.62 rule. These are all just different ways to break up $10,000 into multiple saving options over different time frames. So as you can see in this example here, 27.40 daily, 192.31 weekly, 384.62 bi-weekly, $833.33 per month, or even $1,666.67 bi-monthly, or every 2 months. It doesn't matter which option that you pick. Whichever one is easier for you, whichever one makes the most sense. Some people like bi-weekly because it can just come out of all of your paychecks. A majority of people are paid at this frequency. Some people like the monthly. It's a little bit easier for them because they don't have to think about it too much. It's just one amount per month. So I don't really care which one you choose. Just pick the one that would work best for you, or the one that seems really easier for you to grasp. It's very important that you understand why you're saving right now in order for you to actually follow through. Now, if you want to save $10,000, but you don't have a purpose behind it, it's very unlikely that you're going to succeed. Most people fail to hit goals statistically due to a combination of factors, including vague goals, lack of communication, poor planning, fear of failure, and distractions. For me personally, whenever I failed, I realized it was tied to some sort of fear of judgment. And when I just tackled that and just got over it, it was very easy for me to obtain a lot of the things that I wanted just because I was only worried about what I thought. There's no point in cheating yourself or pretending, because in the end, even if you're able to fool everyone, you can never fool yourself. And ultimately, that's the only person that actually matters is you. So someone gave me this really great acronym about goals. Your goals need to be SMART: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Without a clear plan, it's easy to get sidetracked or to get distracted. So we'll be going over a plan. And of course, we're not setting goals that are too ambitious or unobtainable. That can lead to discouragement. That can also lead to failure. And we want to make sure that we stay motivated during this time. It's very hard to overcome challenges or staying focused without the right motivation. And a realistic time frame to achieve your goal will always give you a sense of urgency. And that is why we will have a time frame of 1 year. So hopefully you have a rule that works for you. You also have a reason why you're going to save. Now we have to make a plan. There's a quote that I really like by Warren Buffett. Someone is sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago. And simply, it's just saying that sometimes the planning of a goal is more important than the execution of said goal. So before you can get started, you need to know your baseline and how much you can actually put aside in 1 year, combined with how much you actually spend. Make sure $10,000 is a reasonable amount. If that's, let's say, a third of your yearly income, you might want to readjust, maybe go to $5,000. That might be a better goal for you. Now, on the flip side of this, if you make a lot of money and you have a hard time with saving because of discipline, then you have to just reevaluate your values. And a good way of doing that is to look at your bank statement and highlight all the things that you're spending money on that aren't a necessity, and then determine if these are things that you actually need to spend money on. If you find that you're spending a lot of money on frivolous things, again, your values are your values, but I've realized what people spend money on will tell you where their values lie. So if your value lies in material things and that is what you put all your stake into, it'll reflect in the way that you spend money. So that's why the next thing you want to do is make sure that you know everything that's coming in and out of your checking account. That's your income, your partner's income, if you have a spouse, and every expense that you actually have monthly, quarterly, and annually. You can record or write down all the fixed expenses in your monthly budget. That's like, rent, mortgage, car payment, health insurance, home, car insurance, all those costs that, some of those things we just need to have. And then there are variable expenses. Those are things that might change monthly, like your dining out, sometimes your power bills, so on and so forth. You want to look at your credit card statements to get like a monthly average of possibly what you're spending. And if you're spending $200 a month on dining and entertainment, like areas like that where you could potentially cut back, you might want to take a look there first, start cutting all that stuff back. Now, if you guys go to my website right now, www.successwithstevensmith.com, I have a brand new calculator that you can download. It is a personal monthly budget calculator for you to save $10,000 fast, very similar to the one that I had for $15,000. However, this one already has all of the formulas. So it's starting with $10,000, and I can show you how to adjust that in this example. But you can download this for free. It is a very simple and easy tool that you can use to save $10,000. All you have to do is input all of your expenses. Now, the first thing you'll want to do when you download the budget calculator is go to File, and then you'll want to make a copy. All right. You want to make a copy because you cannot edit the master template. That way I can make sure that the formulas stay the same for everyone. After you make a copy, then you're good to go. You will have your own document that you can then start adding all of your expenses. Once you download your own copy, it's okay if you want to like highlight all of this stuff that I put up here about the view only part. You can delete all the cells. All right, so with all the cells deleted, it's a little bit cleaner and a little bit easy to understand. So the first thing that you want to do is enter your rent or your mortgage if you have that. You want to look at your electricity, gas, water, sewage, all of this stuff. I enter like general bills that I would assume everyone's going to have: a car payment, auto insurance, fuel, groceries. And then if you want to add other things like movie subscriptions, sports, concert, vacation, etc., etc. When you add everything, it gives you a total. Your total is going to be right here at the bottom. And let's say you wanted to add something to this document, like you had a gym membership that was $100 a month. We can add that onto here. You can now see that your total monthly expenses are now $3,270. If you go to total expenses here, you'll see that it actually will adjust. So whatever you add here in the expense section, it's going to add to total expenses. So if you want to save $10,000, notice right here, it'll show January 833.33. That's what it would actually be when you saved. And then every month it would show how much you would have saved until you got to December, which it would then be $10,000. So this section will show you how much you have to save until then. But what it will do is it'll also show your expenses minus your income, the difference right here, which means you actually have $20,760. So after you save, it actually will show how much money you had total for the year. And then this is the other money that you have that you would just have for expendable income. But you can also add this to your savings as well. But it'll just take whatever your income minus expenses, the difference. You then put how much you want to save. And then it's going to tell you how much money you have in total left over. And then it'll let you know how to get to your goal and also whatever amount of money that you're going to have left. Now, let's say that you wouldn't be able to achieve this goal. As you can see here, you're at negative $9,240. So this kind of lets you know based off of your income and your expenses, it's not possible for you to save $30,000. Now, the reason why I'm highlighting this negative number, this would just mean you have to figure out how to make an extra $770 a month, make an extra whatever. This basically will tell you you need to get a side hustle, maybe a second job, maybe do something else to make up this difference in order to achieve that goal. If you are able to do that, then you can scroll up here to income and you could add interest income or dividends or business or miscellaneous. And you could throw that in here to update this like every single month if you wanted to. Again, this is just a free calculator that I made. It's free on the website. I highly recommend that you download this. I do think it'll be very helpful to you. Now that we've gotten our plan down and we also have a tool that we can use to actually help us calculate this goal, one of the best ways to build your savings is by making your deposits automatic. There's no thought required, and you can set this up whether it be weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly, and you just let this work in the background while you carry on with your other financial goals. And I'm going to explain to you exactly how I was able to do this when I was working my job. It was very simple, and I used a little diagram right here to hopefully make it kind of easy for you to understand. So I would get my paycheck every 2 weeks from my job. I would then separate all of my money into 3 different accounts. One account would be just for my bills. So every month, only bills would come out of this account. They will automatically be paid. I never had to worry about paying bills. The next account would be savings account. This would be an account that I would separate all of my money, and I would do this by going to my employer and adjusting a percentage to be taken out of every single check. Everyone should have the ability to do this. If you have an employer right now, you can tell them, hey, I want X amount of dollars or this percent of my check to go here. And then the rest of it can go here. And whatever the remaining is called balance. It could go here. That's what I set up. I set it up to where every pay period, whatever half of my bills were for the month would go into the bill account right from my paycheck. I wouldn't even see it, kind of like your 401k. The other amount of money that I wanted to save would then go into my savings account. I wouldn't even see it. The remaining money will go into my checking account. That is my money to do with whatever I choose. If I want to get a haircut, if I want to go out to eat, if I want to do whatever, just have fun, buy clothes, that is the amount of money that I would have. But I knew once I spent all this money right here, I have nothing for the next 2 weeks. I'd have food, my bills would be paid, I would have money saved. This is my me money. But once this money is gone, it's completely gone. I can't do anything else. Now, if you automate everything like this, it will be very, very, very hard for you to fail. However, it's super important that you make sure that you use something like that calculator to know exactly what your expenses are. Because with this, the only way that this will work is if you stay within the same budget all the time. You can't have any extra bills. You don't want that account to overdraft. You want it to be perfectly to a T, always coming out with the same amount. If you have electricity, utility bills, maybe it adjusts. Always add a little bit extra just because you never know. I would always add a little bit extra on that side, give myself the least amount, but it'll be bills, saving, and then whatever else is left for me. And sometimes there will be nothing left for me, which would mean, hey, you got food, you got a roof. This is all that you need. And you can just keep on going. Your bills are paid. You got what you need. Sometimes we have to learn how to be disciplined. So just remember that the dates that you set up and the frequency of all your bills is super important. You don't want to miss any bills. You don't want any overdrafts. So you have to always keep that in mind. But definitely reach out to your employer. There's usually a website that you can go through and you can just set this up. And it's really easy to understand. If not, then have someone explain it to you from HR. But it's very easy to set this up. Now, I talked about putting money into a savings account, but deciding where to put your money is very important. $10,000, you're working very hard to save this money. You want to make sure that you're getting the most out of it. And if you're trying to build up your reserve funds and save for like a specific goal or a big trip, or hopefully to invest or use this for business purposes, which is what I would look to do, you want to make sure that the money is doing something to actually grow. This money shouldn't be tied up in retirement accounts or real estate equity. It needs to be very liquid. And a good way of doing this is to get high yield savings account. This is also referred to as a high interest savings. This is something that I've done a video on. I actually covered the top high yield savings account last year. At some point, I will update that. But as of March of 2025, some of the best earnings on high yield savings accounts will range from 3.7% to more than 4.4% APY. For example, if someone left $10,000 in a high yield savings account for 12 months at 4.4% APY, you'd earn $440 after 12 months. Now, again, that's just a very simple example. You would be saving $10,000, so you'd be adding money to that. So you wouldn't just start out with $10,000 and get $440. But just to make it even with nice round numbers, you save $10,000, you would make $440. But that's just an example of what a high yield savings account can do with those very easy inputs. Now, these accounts typically don't have restrictions. They don't have monthly fees. There's no minimum balances, but they also don't come with debit cards, which is good because it makes it very hard for you to spend that money. You also have the option of doing money market account, a MMA, which works similarly to high yield savings in that they provide a solid home for savings that are available without penalty. So you can take them if you needed them, but generally speaking, we're not trying to take them, but it's very easy for you to access them. Money market account interest is typically lower than a high yield savings, and money market accounts may also require a minimum balance and limit your monthly transactions. You also have the option of doing certificates of deposit, CDs. A CD is a type of savings account that earns interest on a fixed amount of money over a fixed period of time, typically between 3 months, and it can go as long as 5 years. They're different from a savings account because the money cannot be accessed during that fixed period, but the best CDs also usually have higher interest rates than savings accounts. So my recommendation is compare your options at different banks, look at credit unions, and just choose the account that makes the most sense for you and your savings goal. I would say if I had to pick one, or the one that would more than likely give you the most interest, it would be a high yield savings account. But you also want to take note that they do change, especially in times that interest rates are lowered. You might notice that the high yield savings account interest can change quite a bit. So you may actually want to switch between a couple of these in the period that you're trying to save this money. And the last thing I want to discuss is making extra income. So some of you may not be able to free up $833.33 a month, and that's all right. It's understandable. In this case, you'll just need to increase your income. So just like you'll need to cut back in certain areas, you might also need to step it up in certain areas by adding to your income. And it might just be a temporary sacrifice so that you can save this money. Now, you may consider a side gig like ride sharing, Lyft, Uber. You might take a part-time job a few evenings a week or on the weekends. And maybe you might have a side hobby that you've been waiting to monetize, and now might be the time. Also, if you're married, remember this might be a team effort. If there's anything that your partner can do to help, then they're probably going to be on board to help you with this. I would have those types of conversations. To me, it's an easy discussion, especially when you're trying to do something positive, and maybe your partner might have a hobby or something that they can monetize. Another option is simply exploring passive income opportunities. Do you travel a lot? Maybe you can rent out your home occasionally. Do you have any dividends in stocks that you can take advantage of? Your options are really limitless. Just get creative and think about a few ways that you can make a little extra money to supplement your usual income. And again, remember, this isn't forever. This is usually just something you're trying to do in the interim just to hit that savings goal. All right, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you noticed, the entire theme of this video is that you have to do something to get something. Unfortunately, you're not gonna save money without sacrificing something, whether it be your time, whether it be maybe your favorite activity, your hobby, things like that. You're going to have to sacrifice something in order to achieve this. And as you continue doing this longer and longer, hopefully you figure out something about yourself and learning how to access capital, use it, and leverage it. I found out a lot of things about my own values. And in doing so, some of the things that I cut out, I never went back to, simply because I realized they weren't good, healthy habits for me in the first place. So it is a really good endeavor. It's a good way to self-reflect and it'll also help you gain some clarity on exactly what's most important to you. So just understand, this isn't just saving money, it's really trying to change your mentality in order to get you to focus on what's most important to you. You'll probably also grasp that when you look at how you're spending your time and what you would like to do in the future to maybe make more money, but maybe have more free time later on by investing in doing things or starting a business. So I do think that you gain a lot out of this, and you're going to have, I would say, temporary discomfort for a lifetime of relaxation when you get to the end of what these principles and what this might do for you in the long term. So if you guys have any comments, if you guys have any questions, please drop that below. I would love to hear that. If this information was helpful, then please share it, like, and subscribe. I would definitely love to hear any of your financial goals, anything that you have in mind, and if you started actually doing this. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching, and you have a wonderful day.